Welcome into another live edition of Locked On 76ers. It's draft day. Keith Pompey's our man on the scene in Brooklyn. You're reading all the stuff at Inquirer.com. My name is Marc Farzetta. Oh, so much to get into. We talked about the best possible scenarios yesterday. What would be the happiest outcomes for the 76ers? Ace Bailey speaks. VJ Edgecombe speaks. Everybody speaks at the NBA draft. We'll break it all down and more on this edition of Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we do thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day, especially on draft day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Keith Pompey, they had everybody available pretty much to address the media, everyone the Sixers could be interested in, top 3 picks and all that stuff. Ace Bailey spoke. VJ Edgecombe spoke. Those are the two I caught the most of. I know you were right there on the scene asking the questions of Ace Bailey, the pertinent questions. And I got to be honest, if anybody was watching that and was holding out a little bit of hope that, hey, maybe Ace Bailey's going to come off as a great guy and maybe this is all just a big misunderstanding, I don't think he did himself any favors for anyone that was on the fence maybe about taking him and being worried about the kind of mental aspect and mental approach and mindset he has going into the draft and potentially, obviously, his NBA career. What did you make of his media availability yesterday?
Well, it was weird because they had an NBA guy right next to him, well, off to the side to him, and then they had the PR director for Rutgers men's basketball who was there. And, you could see that Ace was a little bit nervous, but at the same time, he kept saying the same question, the same answer to just about any question you can. It's about basketball. It's about basketball. And it was like, but the more you asked him, like, and the more as it went along, you know what I mean? It never changed. Like he may say something different, but you realize that the kid was nervous. Because it got to a point where he pulls out a yo-yo. Well, actually, Dylan Harper comes over, and Dylan Harper is standing in the wing. And he asked Dylan Harper to be a part of it. But Dylan's giving him a yo-yo, but the yo-yo's not moving. He can't work it. And he asked Dylan to, take the wrapping off, and then he does it. But here's the thing. When he was done with the interview, and I was mad that I didn't have my phone out, he started doing the yo-yo for the same media members who was asking him tough questions. And then he goes over and Jeremiah Fears is in the middle of giving his press conference and he leans on the podium. And, you see this stick all the time and it gets old where a player acts like a media member and he asks questions.
Right.
But the love that he kind of got from the other players, like the respect, you're looking at well, maybe this kid isn't as bad as everybody thinks he is. Maybe It's just that he's getting bad advice. And instead of saying to him, just answer these questions, say you want to be at a place where you think that you can grow, be a better player, nothing against the Sixers or any other team. They told him basketball is basketball. All I can control is basketball. So I'm gonna tell you, man, when you see guys and you see how the star walks in the room and how other people give him that look and be like, what's up? When he got off that podium, he was getting that from the other players. And I was saying to someone, I'm like, yo, the kids think he's the one. You know what I mean? To me, it's it was a bad interview. I mean, it was what it was. Like, he got bad advice. From personality standpoint, he seems like a great kid, but just by the way the other players were looking at him and talking to him, I think he's going to be a pretty good player, dude. I do.
Interesting.
I think
there's something to that.
Recognized as the man, huh?
I think you're onto something there. When the players are kind of acknowledging who's the the biggest star in the room, so to speak, and you're telling me that they gave that kind of respect to Ace Bailey. That's not nothing in my book. That means something because that's his peers. Those are the guys that are around him that know the real version of him, not the agent, coached, or careful version of himself. That is something. Now, it's going to take me a minute to get over the yo-yo, situation there. That's more yo-yos than workouts for the 76ers this offseason there for Ace Bailey. But when it comes to the overall interview and the media session, if you will, you use the term coached or bad advice or whatever. He's clearly being coached meticulously because he was answering questions like he just witnessed a crime and he was worried about retribution. Like he was basically giving the Marshawn Lynch answers of I'm just here so I don't get fined type of thing. Repeating the same thing when you asked him a good question about, well, wait a minute, hold on a second. What do you make of the media attention that you're getting on the negative side of things, how fans and media members are reacting to the way you do everything? He gave a good answer. I thought it was a good start, saying I can only control what I can control. But when he started talking about I can only control what I do on the court, well, working out for the Sixers would have been part of basketball and certainly helping his draft stock in that situation. So what do you make of just sticking to the script more or less and saying, yeah, I can only control what I can control?
I made of it. He's an 18-year-old kid who got advice from people, and he was trying to make the best of the situation. And the fact that the yo-yo came out was, to me, that was kind of like a calming device for him, something to work with his nerves. Like there's a kid, I'm just going to give an example of another guy. There's a kid, Michael Kidd Gilchrist from South Jersey, a guy who didn't like when he went to Kentucky. I've known him since he was in the 7th grade. He did not like doing interviews, right? So and he used to stutter a lot, right? When he got nervous. So when he did interviews, he always needed a bottle, like a Gatorade bottle, so to speak, right? And he would twirl the bottle. And some people used to think it was annoying. And when I saw Ace get that yo-yo, it brought back Michael Carter Williams. I was like, oh, this guy is nervous. And he's using this to basically relax his nerves. And he knew.
I'm sorry, Michael Carter Williams or Michael Kidd Gilchrist?
Oh, excuse me, Michael Kidd Gilchrist. My bad.
Okay,
Michael.
Okay. Right.
Sorry, Michael Kidd Gilchrist. So it took me back to Michael Kidd Gilchrist because he used to do it, and the fact that because you got to realize what was the guy? Dylan Harper. His interview was before his. Dylan walked back in to be at his friend's side. So that just tells me that this is a young kid who knows that he was about to be criticized or people were going to ask tough questions, and he needed the yo-yo. He needed his best friend. He needed a lot of other people to be there to help him get through it. You know what I mean? It just showed how young he was. But again, when the interview was over and he got off the podium, it was like, the champ is here. The champ is here. I mean, I'm just telling you how the guy. Now, again, Cooper Flagg, hit his interview the same time that that Dylan Harper did it. So he wasn't in there when Ace was there. But, Cooper, he had, the number one, he had the biggest crowd next to Aces, right? You would say. But they were in there at different times. But I'm just telling you, when he got off the podium and walked around, it was kind of like he got mad love, dude. And players know. Players know.
Fair enough. I will say, when it comes to the press conference and all that stuff, one of the things I really try to keep in mind here, and there's no better example of this in the city of Philadelphia than Nick Sirianni. Watching that introductory press conference, I think all Eagles fans, all Philadelphia fans looked at that and went, what? Like, this is the guy, that type of thing? But the point I'm making is that the podium, the microphone, that's not their natural habitat. Their natural habitat is the court, or in his case, Nick Sirianni, the football field, the locker room, the meeting room, that kind of thing. So I try to keep that in mind. And right now, it's not just about the basketball aspect of things, being uncomfortable in front of a microphone or having to answer questions. It's about the business side of things that he's also trying to handle going into this draft. And yes, I know, You look at these guys and they're 18, they're 19 years old. None of them are going to be like a mature 40-year-old in there. VJ Edgecombe, I know, hit the ball out of the park when it came to a sit-down interview portion of his meeting with the 76ers. But there are some guys that are wise beyond their years. Ace Bailey does not seem to be one of those guys, but still when it comes to what he could do on the basketball court, I'd be pretty excited about the full potential of that future 76er if that's the way it goes down. We mentioned VJ Edgecombe. There's another name we're going to get into on this show today, and that's Tre Johnson. But I want to get what you had to say to VJ Edgecombe during last night's media session. I want to get into that and more when we come back. This is Locked On 76ers. That's Keith Pompey. I'm Marc Farzetta. We are live right now on Locked On 76ers, so make sure you guys like and subscribe. Back after this. Hey, how about Open Phone? Hopefully you guys are taking advantage of all Open Phone has to offer. If you're running a business, you know every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had an urgent need, maybe for a plumber or another service provider. First person didn't answer. Did you just sit there and wait? No, you probably moved on and rather quickly to make sure you got the service you needed. That's why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or computer. Open Phone lets me manage business calls and text from a single app. The shared inbox feature is a game changer. Your team can jump into any conversation without missing a beat. Open Phone is offering our listeners and viewers 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you have existing numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers. So VJ Edgecombe also addressed the media last night, Keith Pompey, and he said there was one word I'm going to dissect with you, and it's more than you could say about Tre Johnson. It's more than you could say about Ace Bailey. A more than willing defender, an aggressive defender. And one of the points VJ Edgecombe made was, well, right now Philadelphia has he didn't say right now, but he said Philadelphia has a head coach that's heavy on defense in Nick Nurse, and I'm also heavy on defense in my game. So I thought that was a little bit of an eyebrow raise. That gave me a little bit of an eyebrow raise when it came to that specific detail being pointed out. It's as if, and maybe obvious, it was talked about during their meeting.
Yeah, and also it was one of those things where I asked him, basically, how do you feel like you'll fit in? Because see, he kept saying when it's weird, when you go to these, when you go to these scrums things, there's a lot of people who they all have, like, everybody wants to ask a question, but sometimes we don't listen to the question that was asked to get the follow-up question.
And sometimes you can't hear it.
Yeah,
And sometimes you can't hear it.
Yeah, sometimes you can, but so the thing is, Dan Gelston asked him, we asked him about how the interview went on. Dan asked him something, and he says, yeah, well, they said that I will be a good fit. They didn't go into details with it, but they said I would be a good fit. So I was trying to ask him right afterwards, well, what did you think? How do you think you would fit in? And so that's, but it took a while to get it because everybody was asking all these other questions. But that's what he said. He said he feels in that he could be a good fit playing with those guys because of his defense. And to me, when you look at that, that's a guy who's also willing to do whatever it takes to help a team win. He knows that he's not going to be around. He's not going to be there to take shots and do other things. So he knows that in order for him to get on the floor and be impactful, he's going to have to guard his butt off. He's going to have to do whatever he can. He also knows that he's going to get loose balls. He's going to do all this other stuff and be able to make plays that way. Like, you know what I mean? Like, meaning loose balls, like if there's like hustle plays, whatever, and then you can turn that into transition baskets. So to me, I was impressed by him. He was a cool dude. Now, it seems like really nice, a guy who loves his country. He's from the Bahamas. He's really good friends with Buddy Hield, and he's good friends also with Eric Gordon, who plays for the Sixers. So, it is a lot that this guy knows about the 76ers, and I feel like he would be at home.
Is there anyone that we haven't? I know we haven't talked about Tre Johnson. I do want to ask you specifically about him. Did he address the media last night? Did he get a session?
Yeah, I spoke to him. Okay.
Him. What were your takeaways with Tre Johnson? Because he is very interesting. I know we've talked a lot about VJ Edgecombe and Ace Bailey. VJ Edgecombe obviously having the workout with the Sixers, and that's pretty much it. But Tre Johnson's a very intriguing prospect to me in this whole draft. What were your takeaways from him?
He was intriguing as well. I mean, it's funny. He was talking about fashion. He was talking about all this other stuff. A good dude. Seems like down to earth, extremely confident. But the question I wanted to know was, did you work out for the Sixers? And he was like, no, I haven't. He said he hadn't worked out for the Sixers. So the teams that he worked out for were Charlotte, Brooklyn, Washington, and Utah. So he was asked, well, have you had any discussions with the Sixers or anybody since the combine? And he said, no, he hadn't at all. So, now again, some people will say when you hear stuff like that, the Sixers are not interested at all, right? Mm-hmm. They would say that. But we got to realize they did not have any real discussions with Jared McCain either. Right? So they didn't. So that's something. But I'm going to tell you what, man, what really stood out to me yesterday by being here. You're sitting there and you're talking to people, and everyone was just telling me how much the Washington Wizards love Ace Bailey. Mm-hmm. And how, basically they did this last year with Alex Sarr. Like, they loved him so much that Sarr looked at the Washington Wizards as a better landing spot than the Atlanta Hawks. So he refused to work out for anyone. And next thing you know, you have the Ace Bailey situation. So to me, when we're talking all this stuff, it seems to me that all this stuff is coming from the Washington Wizards, right? Ace Bailey trying to get to the Wizards. That's what I think. So that's what I'm getting. And that's the reason why he's not probably, if he doesn't go to the Sixers, he's probably going to drop big time.
Mm-hmm. So, but if he goes to the Sixers at 3, you're talking about the best possible money, unless you're talking about what, a trade up from the Wizards?
I don't think the Wizards would trade up unless they feel like Danny Ainge is a cruel dude when it comes down to this. So Danny Ainge is like, hey, I might take him. So what you going to give me for him? Right? Things like that. But here's the thing. It's kind of like, yeah, you talk about a trade up, but when you got a guy and you basically, as some people say, butcher the interview, just come out saying the same things. Well, the people who weren't in the room, what do you say? Like you say, yo, that interview didn't do you any good. So now it's like the people in Charlotte and Utah are looking at it like, there's no way in heck y'all going to take this clown, are you? No, you're not. Well, all that does is it pushes the slide further and further, and it makes them there more available. Now, the thing is, yes, you are giving up money, but a lot of these young cats, they look at, okay, I'm giving up money on the front end, but what if I get a max rookie extension? I'm going to make that money back up. And then if I'm the man, then what about I'll get better endorsements and things like that? You know what I mean? Like if you're the fourth guy,
it's business.
It's a business aspect. I want to get my own sneaker in a couple of years. Like if you're the fourth option on the team, Michael Jordan ain't gonna say, "Hey, bro, where the next line of Jordans?" Or you're not gonna get like a New Balance deal like Maxi. You know what I mean? Or something like that. So I don't know.
Yeah, he gets a sneaker. Meanwhile, the fan base gets nothing except, oh, we got a guy that scores 25, 30 points a game. This is great. But you got nobody else scoring the basketball. So those stats are a little inflated because nobody else scored.
But I told you that before. I don't know if I said that to you.
But about the business aspect of it.
Yeah, well, no, not just that. So here's the thing. Like, we all get caught up on that. The biggest joke, I shouldn't say joke. But the biggest thing I think is when I'm a media member. So when we think about something, think about this. When you vote for all NBA and all league, and I do research. I try to do as much research as possible. Mm-hmm. But I know a couple people who told me in the past that when it comes down to third team all NBA, what they look for is stats. They look and see who averaged the most points, right? So you may have a guy on a bum squad whose team maybe won 19 games that year, but this guy is dropping 30, right? So what happens is he gets enough votes. He's all NBA. Well, because he's all NBA, when it's time for him to get an extension, he gets a super max extension, right? So when we talk about, you're getting all these shots, you're doing all this, it works. And sometimes it works out better for the guy playing on the scrubby team financially than it does for a guy being a fourth option on a championship team. Like it just depends on what you want. Do you want to be paid or do you want that ring? And unfortunately, there's a lot of people, I think, prefer the ring over being paid. Prefer being paid over the ring.
I know what you're saying. And that's the unfortunate thing. And that's what I'm getting to for the fan base is that we don't want another Ben Simmons in Philadelphia that likes the business aspect of things, likes what basketball brings them, but doesn't love winning, doesn't love competing. And that's how a lot of fans saw Ben Simmons. And they look at Ace Bailey as a guy that really likes the whole kit and caboodle that it could bring you, but doesn't necessarily love the game of basketball. That's the worry with Ace Bailey. I'm not saying that's what it is, but I'm saying that's the worry right now with Ace Bailey. We are live, so I do want to get a couple of comments in here. Phil wants to say Ace did the right thing for not speaking. Okay. Presidential Mike, hello. Sixers should draft him and trade him. I guess that means Ace Bailey. Couple other things. Wait, what? Larry Knipple? What? I don't think he's available. Con Knipple is. Theodore thinks Tre Johnson is equal to Kevin Durant. That's bold. That's very bold. He likes to shoot, likes to score. That's where I would agree. The Kevin Durant thing, I've heard it before, but you're talking about what, 6'10" versus 6'6" in terms of skill set. Yeah, he loves shooting the basketball, but the length isn't there. Did Bailey say he won't play for us? Says Jason A. Is this a fact? He never said. Yeah, he never said it, but it's the kind of thing that your actions are speaking louder than any words. So I agree with you. He's trying to do everything in his power to slide in the draft. That's what I think he's doing. And the Sixers just might fall for it.
Okay, so what I did is I asked Ace. I said, look, I know what's going on, but if the Sixers still draft you, how do you think you'll fit with the big three of Embiid, Paul George, and Maxey? He said, be blessed. Whatever happens, it just happens. I be blessed. And then somebody said, well, will you think you'll learn from Joel Embiid? He said, yeah, I think I'll learn from him. Yes, I'll learn from anybody, stuff like that. So, yeah, he was like, be blessed. I don't think I think let's keep it real. We all know what he's trying to do, but I don't think he would basically say, I'm not going to play for y'all if you draft me. You know what I mean? Now, I think that what he would do is he's going to hope and pray that, okay, well, they draft me. And then next thing you know, they get some assets down the road before I sign my contract. And then they trade me. Right. You know what I mean? Right. Kind of sort of like Andrew Wiggins. You remember, like Andrew Wiggins was drafted by Cleveland. And then all of a sudden, Cleveland included him in that trade. They had like the trade for LeBron, right? They did the 3-team trade. So they shipped him out. So he's probably hoping and praying that could happen. And the way teams are acquiring all these draft assets, you never know what could happen, if the Sixers do draft him.
All right. When we come back, I want to make sure we get a couple more comments in. And also, we talked about best case scenarios, official predictions. And Keith, I'm going to ask you this because I'm a man who loves happiness, Keith. I know some people might doubt that. Some people might label me a negative Nancy or whatever. No. I'm a happy person. I'm going to tell you what would make me the happiest tonight. and the second happiest for the 76ers. And I want you to give me yours as well. We're going to break all that down when we come back. This is Locked On 76ers. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to all things Locked On Sports. And make sure you guys like and subscribe right here on Locked On 76ers. Back after this. Oh, the weather. Oh, it's steaming hot. Oh, it's so hot. I know they're going to be popping open the fire hydrants in Frankfurt like the old days, right? But when it comes to making sure you're enjoying the outdoors, make sure you do that by decorating your backyard from all the great things they have at Wayfair. There's nothing like stepping into your own outdoor space and feeling like you've escaped to your personal oasis. If you're wanting to update your patio this season, Wayfair has made it easy to turn it into a space that feels like yours, comfortable, stylish, and ready for summer, even the dog days of summer. Wayfair has everything you need to level up your outdoor space: conversation sets, outdoor bars, fire pits, hot tubs, gazebos, and yes, even the perfect string lighting to set that vibe in the outdoor space. It's like giving your backyard that resort feel without the resort price tag. Got a table and chairs out there from Wayfair. We absolutely love it, and it absolutely gives it that resort feel. So don't wait. Make your outdoor space your dream oasis today with Wayfair and enjoy it all summer long. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's wayfair.com to shop. A huge outdoor selection. That's wayfair.com. WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. So, Keith, we went through the best case scenarios and all that stuff. Yesterday, we gave our top three. I am still very much on board with yours. Now, the thing that we did yesterday was it had to have a little the chance of happening. So, like, no fantasy situations that are like Embiid and Paul George are not getting packaged with, the third overall pick or anything like that. That's not happening. But yours that raised my eyebrows for a chance in the dark, because you're talking about best fit and the best player available. Well, if the Sixers somehow magically, though they don't have a lot of assets to do it, are able to move up to number 2 and get Dylan Harper, oh my goodness, you get a born and bred point guard to play with Tyrese Maxey, and Tyrese Maxey, we don't have to worry about the court vision anymore. Whew. Keith, I went to bed last night with a smile on my face just thinking of that thought.
Yeah, that would be a good one. I mean, it really was. I like him. Interviewing him is, you can tell like he's built for this moment. And it's crazy though, because I will say this though, and I like the guy, but the two different storylines between him and Ace Bailey are crazy, because Dylan Harper, like Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper are like best friends. He has a good relationship with with Dylan's family and all this and that. And I get it, he goes to Rutgers. But, everybody's saying to him, man, why'd you go to Rutgers? Like, you're one of the best players in the country, and you went to Rutgers. But then people were asking Dylan Harper yesterday, hey, you're a loyal guy. You could have gone anywhere, but you went to Rutgers. Like, now I get it, he is from New Jersey. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. It's like a kid from L.A. going to Cal State Fullerton. You know what I mean? Like when they could go to Kentucky or somewhere like that, right? But
right.
The storylines are really bizarre. I mean, and I get it, but it's also like you can't praise one guy for being loyal and then killing another guy for going to the school that his best friend went to, so we could try to help them get on the mat. The
narrative surrounding both players is wild.
It's wild. It's extremely wild. But in regards to his play, the maturity that I saw, the fact that he was willing to come back and be there and take some of the pressure off of his best friend, that's the type of guy you want in the locker room. That's the type of guy that, when you go, when people are going through something, that he's going to be the first one there to say, hey, man, hold your head up. You got this. We're going to get through this, right? So I like him a lot for the maturity that was shown, and also, like you say, his ability. And he has nice size to him. Like, he's a solid guy. Like, he has nice size to him as well. And I feel like I can see where people say he puts some in mind of James Harden from the standpoint, not his game per se. I mean, not, we're not calling him a future Hall of Famer, top 75 player, but he has a big body to whereas he can withstand contact going to the rim, to the rim rather, the rim.
All right. Let's get it out there on the table, Keith. Tonight is draft night. Tonight, Adam Silver will take to the podium, get on that little microphone. He'll get booed. And then after that, you'll see Cooper Flagg go off the board. Then you'll see Dylan Harper go off the board. With the third pick in the 2025 NBA draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select.
They traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder for 2029. Nah, with the third pick, the 76ers, if they keep the pick, I think they're gonna draft Edgecombe.
Oh, really? You do think they take Edgecombe?
I think they should take Ace Bailey.
Okay.
But I wouldn't be shocked if they took Edgecombe.
All right. I'm with you. I'm with you. I look, as I told you earlier, it's like, you try to break up with a girl in high school and your friends are like, why are you still with her, man? You're like, you don't know, man. All the red flags galore. And you're like, no, it's still great. That kind of thing. That's how I look at Ace Bailey. I just look at him like, yeah, everyone's telling us how crazy this is. You shouldn't take him. But I just look at the upside. I look at the potential. I look at the size. Like he's got everything that could blossom into one hell of an NBA player for years to come. Perennial all-star type player. VJ Edgecombe would be a guy that would be a lot more malleable in terms of how he could fit into this offense in terms of you need a defensive player. He could be that guy. You need someone to attack the rim. He could certainly be that guy. I think the more likely selection, I'm with you, the more likely selection is VJ Edgecombe at 3 for the Sixers. The one that would make me happier, craziness aside or included, Ace Bailey. I think he's playing the game. And I think if he loses the game, Sixers fans still win because he's going to be here. He's going to make the most money here. Simple as that. He'll have an opportunity to play because I don't look at Paul George and Joel Embiid, as I've said many times, as if they're going to play a lot of games this season. So he'll have room to grow here. Now, the other situation here, to get back to the happy-go-lucky point, Keith, what do you think of this? What do you think about trading back? If the Sixers, in a lot of drafts, trade back, I hate it. It makes me want to regrow my hair just to pull it out of my head. But when it comes to trading back in this particular draft, if you mean to tell me you can add on to assets for next year where you don't have them in the draft in particular, and you could still get, say, Tre Johnson later in the draft, I'm happy about that. I walk away from this draft feeling good. They didn't roll the dice on Ace Bailey, which I still overall want them to do. But if they shift anywhere else, I would rather see them maybe trade back and get Tre Johnson, get that kind of scoring potential in here. That kind of scoring ability in here. You obviously got to work on the defensive side of things for him. Shot selection, you certainly got to work on with him. But if you get a little bit more insurance to next year's draft, I can't be mad at that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they're in the, I don't think this is the perfect situation for the 76ers. Like everybody's going to come out there and say, oh, you're in a great spot. You have so many options. But the crazy thing is the best player available is going to be Ace Bailey.
I agree.
There's no one can argue that. But what you have to do is you're wondering about how is he going to fit in this culture? How are people going to take the fact that he's not going to be, he may not, the fans may not never warm up to him because of what he did. And then if you trade down, are you going to be 100% sure that you're going to be able to get that player that you still desire, like another one of your options? VJ Edgecombe, although he still needs to work on his shot, although he still needs to improve his dribbling, I feel like for the 76ers, that might be the safe pick for them right now. But although it's the safe pick, you still have a log jam at the guard position. So with that being said, Ace is the best option. but you don't know if it's going to go left because it was red flags before, and you don't want to go. Now, me personally, I think that he's just getting advice and he'll fit in, but I don't know. I feel like they look at VJ as a safe pick. And to answer Phil's question, the reason why VJ would be the safe pick over Trey is because VJ bought in on the defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
What Trey does is he can make shots. But right now, the 76ers need people who are going to run through that wall and run through screens and do all that other stuff to D people up. So that's what it is. They need the defense, Phil. That's what it is, my man. And I did answer your question.
What, my question or Phil in the chat here?
No, Phil was like, answer my question.
Oh, Phil's asked. Yeah, I see him now. There he is. There's Phil.
Don't hurt me,
What's up, Phil?
don't hurt me.
Coming in aggressive with the question marks there, Keith. Or excuse me, Phil. There you go. See, was that Duke Holiday? I don't know. Exactly, Keith. See, he likes your explanation there. Mid-Atlantic 09. I hope they pass on Bailey. We may have a lot of upside, or he may have a lot of upside, but his floor could be incredibly low, similar to the floor of Cam Reddish. Okay. OKC top defense still gave up 120 points. Laugh out loud. Fair enough.
Yeah, but they still won the chip, bro. They won the chip.
How about that? Thanks, people in the chat there. All right, if I'm going to put it to you like this, this is how I like to phrase the question, and you've explained this already, but I think it comes to, if I like to ask people to phrase the question like this: if Daryl Morey calls you and says, "Who do I take?" I think we're both saying Ace Bailey, but the unfortunate thing that's also rattling around in my brain here is what Brian Windhorst reported Friday, which was VJ Edgecombe, just as you're saying, Keith, is the safe pick. But you take Ace Bailey, acknowledging that he's dangerous, and he's going to get selected by a general manager, or in this case, a director of basketball operations, Daryl Morey. He's going to get selected by someone in that position that feels, quote, very safe in their job. And I don't think Daryl Morey should feel very safe in his job right now, even though I think he's the right pick. If that's true, what Brian Windhorst said, that I don't think Daryl Morey is looking at Ace Bailey as if he is the guy for the 76ers. So if you have to make a prediction, and my prediction does not match my desire, the prediction is the 76ers walk away with VJ Edgecombe today. And I don't hate the player. I don't hate the pick. I just don't think it's the best option for them. And if I could tee you up for this before we get out of here, Keith, this is really interesting. And it is what you picked up on a game that VJ Edgecombe played at Baylor, where a lot of NBA scouts were in the room, or they were in the building. And there were some things that you picked up from that situation. Could you describe that again for the audience, please?
I mean, I just saw when they had him they had him handling the ball, like being the point guard that one particular game. And I was not impressed with that. I mean, it looked like they were playing 4-on-5 when he was running the point. Like, he wasn't involved. Like, he just wasn't. Now, again, there were certain times where somebody else would get the ball, or he would give the ball up, and then he would swing somewhere and they pass it to him, and he would go downhill and attack the rim. And I was like, okay, I see that. But I didn't like what I saw of him when he was playing the perimeter. Like, he looks to me like he's not a point guard, but he looks to me like he's a wing, but he's trapped in the two guard's body. Right now, the leadership and everything else there was great. Right. I saw them huddling guys up, but in regards to him, like, you know, running the offense and doing all that other stuff, I just felt like it took away from his best attribute. He just seemed like he was out of place.
Yeah. Keith, I wish you a lot of luck tonight. And I know when everyone's watching the NBA draft, and you're talking about those top 3 picks, top 10 picks, really any lottery pick, it's like they make the pick and then you wait. And you wait for the McCall Bridges, Zaire Smith type of deal. You wait for the Nerlens Noel type of deal, you know, that kind of thing. That's what we'll be sitting and waiting for. But I think the right pick tonight is Ace Bailey. Our prediction, though, does not match our desire. Our prediction is VJ Edgecombe is a member of the Philadelphia 76ers by the time this night is over. We thank you guys for watching. We thank you guys for listening. And hey, on behalf of Keith and I, thank you so much for the support that you've shown this show over the last 3 weeks since I've come on board here. It has been a blast to work with you, Keith. It's been a blast to interact with all the listeners and viewers of the show. Getting to talk basketball is always a pleasure, no matter what the subject is. I love the sport. Keith, this has been a lot of fun, and I wish you nothing but luck tonight, and can't wait till we catch up again tomorrow to pick up all the pieces, my friend.
All right, but who did you say they're going to draft?
They're drafting VJ Edgecombe.
Okay, good.
That's my prediction. I'm with you. I like to say our prediction doesn't match our desire.
Yeah.
Prediction is VJ Edgecombe has checked all the boxes without red flags. One red flag of nervousness. And then Ace Bailey checks the other boxes in terms of who will have the better NBA career. So here's crossing the fingers in the crapshoot. That's the NBA draft. Hey, everybody. Thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen today. For your second listen, make sure you guys find Locked On NBA podcast for the no off season. How about that? No off season with the Locked On NBA podcast. So make sure you guys are paying attention to Doug, Matt, and Hayes to keep you up to date on the contract negotiations, rumors, and everything floating around in the offseason. You can find the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Find that wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a great night. At least we hope it is. We'll catch up with you guys tomorrow. See you then.